The moment the security doors closed behind the elderly man in the faded navy jacket, dozens of people quietly looked away, pretending not to notice the humiliation unfolding in the bright marble lobby. His shoes carried the dust of an early morning walk, his silver hair was slightly untidy from the wind, and the worn leather folder under his arm looked decades old. Across the polished floor stood the company's confident young CEO, whose voice echoed through the building with absolute certainty. She believed she was protecting her corporation from an unwanted visitor. What she didn't know was that the quiet stranger she had just dismissed wasn't lost at all. He had built the tower with his own vision years before and still owned every single floor beneath their feet. If stories about humility, kindness, and second chances inspire you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes character matters more than appearances, and subscribe to Lifeline Tales for more emotional journeys that remind us what truly makes a person great. Morning sunlight poured through the towering glass walls of Halcyon Square, one of the most admired business headquarters in the city. Employees hurried through revolving doors with coffee cups, laptops, and ambitious plans for another successful day. Among them, the elderly man walked without urgency. His name was Alaric Rowan, although almost nobody in the building recognized him anymore. Years earlier, newspapers had celebrated him as one of the country's greatest entrepreneurs. Time, however, had quietly erased his face from public memory. After stepping away from daily business operations, he chose a peaceful life away from cameras, luxury events, and interviews. He had watched the company grow from afar, believing its greatest legacy would not be its profits but its values. The company's board had recently appointed a celebrated executive named Miranda Cross as CEO. Brilliant, disciplined, and fiercely competitive, she had transformed struggling divisions into record-breaking successes. Investors admired her confidence. Financial magazines called her the future of corporate leadership. Yet somewhere beneath her remarkable achievements, compassion had slowly become secondary to efficiency. Every meeting revolved around numbers, appearances, and status. She believed successful companies could never afford weakness. That particular morning, Alaric decided to visit the headquarters without informing anyone. He wanted to experience the company exactly as an ordinary visitor would. He dressed simply because comfort mattered more than appearance. Instead of arriving in a chauffeured limousine, he took the subway, then walked several blocks beneath the warm sunshine. Every step filled him with memories of years spent sacrificing sleep, family gatherings, and personal comfort to create opportunities for thousands of employees who trusted his dream. As he entered the lobby, he admired the artwork, the indoor trees, and the cheerful conversations surrounding him. Yet something felt different. Smiles seemed rehearsed. Greetings sounded mechanical. The warmth that once defined the company had faded into polished professionalism. When Alaric politely asked the receptionist if he could visit the executive floor, uncertainty immediately spread across the front desk. His appointment wasn't listed. His appearance didn't match what anyone expected from an important guest. Calls were made. Security became alert. Within minutes, Miranda herself stepped into the lobby after hearing an unidentified elderly visitor was insisting on entering restricted areas. She looked at him briefly before making her judgment. To her, he appeared like another confused retiree wandering into the wrong office tower. Calmly but firmly, she informed him that executive meetings were reserved for invited guests and suggested he might have mistaken the address. Several employees lowered their heads, uncomfortable with the situation, while others quietly watched with curiosity. Alaric listened without interrupting. His expression never changed. There was no anger in his eyes, only quiet disappointment. He thanked her politely, glanced around the magnificent lobby one last time, and softly remarked that buildings could become beautiful while forgetting the people they were built for. His words lingered long after he walked away. Less than 30 minutes later, every executive on the top floor received an urgent message requesting their immediate presence in the boardroom. Confusion spread rapidly because the meeting request came directly from the chairman of the board, who rarely called emergency gatherings. Miranda entered confidently, expecting another strategic discussion. Instead, she found every board member standing respectfully beside the same elderly gentleman she had dismissed downstairs. The room fell completely silent. The chairman welcomed Alaric Rowan home. Only then did Miranda learn the truth. Decades earlier, Alaric had personally financed the company's first office, refused enormous buyout offers, and created an employee ownership program that had changed thousands of lives. Although retired from daily operations, he remained the majority shareholder. Legally, morally, and financially, the company still belonged to him. Embarrassment rushed across Miranda's face. She expected anger, public criticism, perhaps even dismissal from her position. Instead, Alaric simply invited everyone to sit. He spent the next hour asking questions no financial report could answer. He asked whether receptionists still remembered employees' birthdays. He asked whether struggling workers still received quiet help during family emergencies. He asked whether interns were encouraged to share ideas. He asked whether janitors felt respected. The room remained painfully quiet because quarterly reports contained none of those answers. Over the following weeks, Alaric remained in the building as a silent observer. He walked through departments unnoticed by many employees who assumed he was simply an elderly consultant. He shared lunch with maintenance workers, chatted with interns, and listened carefully to reception staff. The stories he heard were both inspiring and heartbreaking. Employees admired the company's opportunities but quietly admitted they no longer felt seen. Performance mattered more than people. Miranda watched him closely. For the first time in years, she stopped measuring success through presentations and profit charts alone. She noticed how employees naturally smiled when Alaric entered a room. He remembered names after meeting someone once. He thanked cleaners personally. He celebrated small achievements that nobody else noticed. One afternoon, Miranda found an old photograph displayed in the company's archive. It showed young Alaric wearing work boots beside construction workers during the building's earliest days. There were no expensive suits, no luxury watches, no signs of wealth. Just determination and hope. She realized she had judged the man entirely by his clothing. That realization haunted her. Instead of defending herself, Miranda began changing. Executive dining rooms were open to every employee once each week. Anonymous suggestion boxes returned after years of neglect. Managers received leadership training focused on empathy rather than intimidation. Financial bonuses became connected not only to profits but also to employee satisfaction and mentorship. The changes were gradual, but the atmosphere slowly transformed. People laughed more. Teams collaborated naturally. Employees stayed because they felt valued rather than pressured. Months later, another ordinary morning arrived. A nervous young delivery driver accidentally spilled coffee across the lobby while rushing to complete his route. The frightened teenager expected to be thrown out immediately. Before anyone could react harshly, Miranda walked over herself. She helped gather the scattered papers, offered the young man a fresh towel, thanked him for working hard, and assured him that accidents happen to everyone. Across the lobby, Alaric watched quietly. He smiled. Not because coffee had been spilled, but because compassion had returned. The board later gathered once again, expecting another business review. Instead, Alaric announced that he would officially transfer much of his remaining ownership into an employee trust, ensuring future generations would benefit from the company's success. He explained that buildings, wealth, and titles eventually belong to history, but kindness leaves a legacy that continues long after names disappear. Miranda stood before the employees that afternoon with complete honesty. She admitted her mistake publicly. She confessed that ambition without humility had blinded her. Rather than weakening her leadership, that admission earned deeper respect than any quarterly record ever had. The company flourished beyond expectations over the following years. Clients noticed happier employees. Innovation increased because people no longer feared speaking honestly. Turnover dropped dramatically. Success followed naturally once people believed they mattered. Visitors often admired the impressive headquarters, its soaring architecture, and its breathtaking views. Yet those who worked inside understood the building's greatest strength wasn't its design. It was the lesson quietly living within its walls. Never assume someone's worth from their appearance. Never mistake confidence for wisdom. And never forget that the strongest foundations are built with respect, not marble. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who could use this reminder, and subscribe to Lifeline Tales for more stories that celebrate humanity, hope, and second chances. Before we finish, tell us in the comments, what matters more in a true leader, power or humility? As the sun slowly set behind the glass tower that evening, golden light reflected across every window. Employees left with lighter hearts than they had carried that morning. Inside the lobby, a simple framed photograph of Alaric Rowan during the company's earliest days was placed beside the entrance. Every person who walked through those doors from then on would remember one timeless truth: the richest people are not those who own the tallest buildings, but those who never forget the value of every human being who walks inside them.